What is the potential of Joe Veleno, the Detroit Red Wings' 30th overall pick in the 2018 NHL entry draft? Now, Veleno is somebody who, back at the draft, I personally really liked, and I wanted to see him potentially go in a top 10, 12, 13 spot in the draft. For my Vancouver Canucks, I made a Why I Want video about Veleno because I thought he was going to go much higher than he did. Nobody really expected him to drop, but the past is in the past, and the bottom line is he is a Detroit Red Wing. Why Veleno dropped? Nobody really knows, but what people do know is that Veleno did have a ton of hype going into his draft -2 and his -3 because he was granted exceptional status back when he was drafted in the QMJHL, which meant that he was the first player in the QMJHL's history to get drafted a year before he turned 16. That was crazy, and overall it was a big step for Joe Veleno. And stepping into the QMJHL St. John's Sea Dogs, he put himself up 43 points in 62 games, which is not amazing, but for a guy who was 15 turning 16, that was pretty good. Now, the majority of exceptional status players have tremendous levels of hype. Guys like Aaron Ekblad, Tavares, Connor McDavid, and going into the future, Shane Wright. But Joe Veleno is a guy who didn't necessarily have that same ceiling as a guy like McDavid. So what is the ceiling and the potential for Joe Veleno? Well, most people would have labeled it as a solidified top 6 player, and the reason for that is because Veleno is a really good two-way center. He plays a game like Jonathan Toews, not in the same ceiling and capacity, but in the same style. Really good leadership, very good playmaking ability. He's got some really good eyes, so he's able to look around the offensive zone, scan it, identify what's the best scoring opportunity, and use it so. On top of that, he's got some really good puck skills and some really good work ethic. This combines all for one player that plays like Jonathan Toews. But as a guy who was taken with exceptional status, people weren't necessarily seeing the best that they could have, especially going forward into Veleno's next few seasons in the QMJHL. But the most recent season of QMJHL play with the Drummondville Voltigeurs, Joe Veleno got 104 points in 59 games as an 18 turning 19-year-old. That's really good. And he was there, one of the best in the league in points. He was 4th in the entire league in points and 2nd in points per game behind teammate Maxime Comtois. So, the ceiling of Joe Veleno has really just exploded. And what we thought was the maximum capacity top 6, maybe 40-50 point role that Veleno could fulfill at the NHL level has now been blown out of the water. Now, you could argue that Veleno has always had first-line potential, and you could argue that he was always one of the safer bets to make the NHL, but having a guy show this progression where he goes from 40 points to 79 points to 104 points in the QMJHL, it's certainly a great sign. I'd rather have him do that than stay at the 40-point pace that he was in years prior. So Veleno now coming into the Grand Rapids Griffins system most likely, if not the Detroit Red Wings system, has the potential to legitimately be a two-way threat that dominates the game. Somebody who maxes out at 70, maybe 80 point potential in the NHL, a true elite talent. Veleno has all the tools to combine into a great NHL player. The exceptional status is one thing, sure he's not McDavid, but in the words of Andy LaHoo from a year ago, the exceptional status for Veleno means strictly that he was able to play in the QMJHL a year before his peers, meaning that he was ready a year before his peers, meaning that he was mature enough to handle it at that level. It's one of the safest bets to project an NHL talent. And Veleno, I believe, is going to be a very good one. hope you enjoyed this quick little video. 99, and bye.